Nakada states there is increased percentage of the youth consuming various drugs as a lifestyle. Technology evolution with its disadvantages as the younger generation succumb to cyberbullying, misinformation, and online predators. Has the Generation Z awakened democracy in Kenya? Older persons' human rights get neglected, UN reports reveal.
Hello, welcome to the Future Focus, where we bring you the latest matters in public interest. I shall be with you in the next 25 minutes, so kindly do engage with us on all our social media handles at Brenda Nyakio. Feel free to speak to me, talk to me at hashtag the Future Focus. I am your host, Brenda Nyakio, and this is what NBC TV has in stock for you. Our top story today is the drug abuse usage among the youth, which Nakada has released a report on an increased percentage on the youths consuming various drugs. Nakada further states it is a negative effect to the society, for the drugs are being consumed as a lifestyle. Experts have stated that consequences of drug abuse, which mostly can lead to failure of body organs, can also lead to mental health disorders. Our reporter Fain Bonyo with more.
Nakada reveals that students are their own suppliers of drugs, thus increasing the supply chains, as Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen has proposed banning of cheap alcohol sales near educational institutions. At the moment, we hear what our expert has to say about the realities of drug abuse and what is the worst that can happen when one becomes a drug addict, and how can one turn a new chapter in life. Reporting for the Future Focus, I am Fain Bonyo.
A lot of drug use is influenced by social media use, and the are influential people are using them and making it seem cool, and the debates around decriminalization and legalization of drugs. If we were to focus on marijuana, uh, are we legalizing it for recreational use, or are we legalizing it for medicinal use? Because most there's states or places that have legalized it for recreational, and some for medicinal use, because it's seen to probably treat cancer better.
And now our correspondent, Fain Bonyo, joins us live. Fain, what are the commonly abused drugs in Kenya?
Thank you, Brenda. In Kenya, the most abused drugs include bang, alcohol, miraa, cocaine, and prescription drugs like painkillers and pain relievers.
Are there any specific age groups that have been affected most?
The age group affected are mostly youths and young adults, particularly those aged 15 to 35 years. However, drug abuse is also generally consumed by teenagers and even older adults in certain cases.
How accessible are these drugs and how are they sourced, and who is their supplier?
These substances are easily accessible in both urban and rural areas. Another report shows social media has aided drug suppliers. Alcohol is sold openly in many outlets, especially in educational institutions, while bang and miraa are commonly grown locally. Cocaine and other hard drugs are often smuggled into the country. The accessibility and affordability of these substances contribute largely in excess in drug. Thank you so much, Brenda. Back to you in studio.
Thank you, Fain. Hopeful this will be considered and overseen. With me in studio, I am with Dr. Susan Junguna, who is a senior lecturer at Dista University, who are to discuss about matters concerning drugs. Welcome. Are there any substances gaining popularity among young people that weren't commonly used a decade ago?
The Bible says that there's nothing new under the sun. What has been will be, and what will be has already been. I wouldn't say that they are new substances. I would say they are new methods, or in which the drugs are now, with the processing and or lack of it. So I may not say they are new drugs, but they are being combined differently, and for that reason, then we are having different effects. And there are also discoveries that you get a cough syrup, for example, a substance within the cough syrup mixed with something else becomes a drug. So it is the exploration much more than, something new that is on the stage. But that's my view, because people are finding out. Yes.
In your analysis, what are the main social, economic, and psychological factors driving substances use among youths today? Based on your
Social is a lot of peer pressure. The urban life compared to, which is different between cities, between towns. What's, it is said that loneliness is the number one killer. So in people trying to become social, to be among in the in group, they are tending to go into groups sometimes that drive them down the drug route. Economic, I would say poverty is not a reason why people should engage in drugs. However, we all have very different ability to say no. And so some are growing as people are learning to make decisions in their 19, 20, before the age of 25. They will make mistakes. They will say no, or they will say yes to something that required a different response. So the economic then comes there, where someone is offering you money you've never seen, and it seems to come very easy, and you do not have the ability. So you're looking at your need against the money. This money.
Based on your research, what prevention methods have proven most effective in reducing substance use among young people?
Psychological is together, I would tie it together with the social, the need for company, the need to be affirmed, the need to be seen, to be equal to everybody else. So that then you'll find the young men doing things differently, the young ladies doing things differently. It's much more psychological. And again, this is coming, again, I keep looking at it. It's coming through a developmental stage when you're learning how to make decisions. And so the bad decisions of that season would not necessarily, the issue would be, what are the lessons learned from the bad decisions that I've made? Am I willing to get off the drugs? Or am I so hooked and feel that, I will be, a castaway if I do? Are you self-aware? Because if you are not self-aware, then you fall in the vulnerable group, and you can easily then be drawn into drugs because you're not even self-aware. And by self-aware, I would want to ask the question, is there a problem of drug abuse in my family? Which means that if I tried the first time, I will be hooked. Is there, what do drugs do to me? Do I have a mental health issue such that if I take drugs, it will push me to the other end? So just self-awareness, which I believe young people need to really work at, so that you accept yourself, you know that you're unique, and therefore you can't do things just like everybody else. There must be boundaries that you're drawing to keep you safe. Empowering the young people, and I would start by talking about knowledge. Do they know what is out there on the market? And this should be as early, because drug use and abuse is starting as early as class 7, and now we will probably be talking about junior secondary. How many children in junior secondary are already abusing drugs? Maybe introduced intentionally, maybe not introduced intentionally. So we need to be very intentional with strategies that create the self-awareness as early as before they come to the university. So
How can technology such as AI or social media campaign
the young people at the center, because they're the ones who know how to use this technology, and ask them the question, how can we make it more useful? How can we, tweak it such that it is actually helping us more than us just downloading? What can we put in in TikTok, for example. How can we use AI to just strengthen? So we get them to the table, we get them at the head of the table, we get them to drive the change, and that way we will have systems that work for us.
This is the Future Focus on NBC TV, and a reminder that we will want to hear your thoughts on this matter, so interact with us on all social media platforms at Brenda Nyakeo using the hashtag #TheFutureFocus. Next in our stories in the studio is the revolution of technology having its negative effects on younger generations. The big question is, how safe are the children and youth while navigating social media? Do parents check what their children are consuming online, and who are they communicating with? Well, many questions are left unanswered. In Kenya, TDH, an international charity, has zeroed in Nairobi, Kisumu, and Kilifi. These counties are considered the most burdened in online child sexual exploitation because of the presence of large informal settlements in Nairobi, Kisumu.
Thank you, Brenda. Today's world, social media has become a tool of communications in all generations, but this digital freedom also comes with growing risks. Research shows that children and youth from coastal areas have succumbed to cyberbullying and exploitation by strangers online.
Identifying or targeting a kid in need. These kids who normally fight or in constant fight to their parents, especially this age group of this adolescent age group. They are constantly fighting with their parents, and a need is created of a person who understands them, because the reason they are fighting is they feel they are not being understood. So they come in as the understanding individual, so that they get closer to their child.
Are putting in effort to introduce digital literacy programs to educate children and youth on how to use digital media to better themselves and the red flags of online predators.
These days we have parental controls online. There's YouTube. YouTube even has YouTube Kids. These parental controls basically, where there's you can set it, or parents can set what their adolescents or their adolescent children have access to online. But adolescents are very smart, so they know how to get around this.
With fast evolution of technology, this seems as a bumpy road. This mechanism is to raise awareness, increase supervision, and ensure responsible internet use. Thank you, Brenda. Back at you in studio. Yes, many have similar responses on this. Sudden changes in behavior. This is someone seems mischievous and weird behavior signs by their children. Secrecy about online activities, receiving gifts from strangers, or having multiple social media accounts are some red flags. If a child becomes withdrawn or anxious, it might be worth checking their online information. They may ask for sexual photos, personal details, or even try to arrange a physical meeting in unexposed areas. Yes, many have similar responses on this. Sudden change. The government can enforce stricter cyber laws and invest in better tracking and punishing offenders. Educational institutions, on the other hand, can introduce online safety into their curriculum and create safe spaces or hotlines where students can report suspicious online activity without fear of judgment. Back to you in studio.
Thank you so much, Philip, for your insights and your answers. Have a lovely day. Joining me live is Kajim Mwangi, the president of AYLF, African Youth Leadership Forum, who is going to analyze the issue about youth safety online. What are the better measures to put for sanitizing the case of youth safety online?
What the government can do, maybe just to start from, some of these things are just associated values. We hold as a community, values we hold from where we come from. So it's Christian associated. the government from inside maybe can be able to maybe best practices measures, but the chunk of the responsibility is squarely on the people, the values, because I don't think it needs to be written somewhere that you're not supposed to insult people online. It's something that you should. These are values, occasional values, and maybe the government should maybe just try and enforce it, maybe in a good way, in a favorable way, that it does not look like you are just competing with them, and it should be just a collective responsibility of both the government, not only the government, but the government and the people. Yeah, so for me, it's a question of values, not really the government. It's that should us.
How can the young people protect their personal information?
So one thing that I really appreciate about them is that they are training school-going kids. They have boot camps for people to try and learn the best practices, especially online. So, for example, you are taught how to handle the data, how to just put events in order so that they can not get into the hands of the wrong people. Maybe. So I think the best or the biggest chance of job for the organizations for the communities to start training the students from areas we can. So yeah, basically it's about training, capacity building, best practices. Yeah.
Do you know of any helpline to reach out and report for such situations?
So it's also a question of the parents. So good behavior at some points we don't really have there is a yardstick. I don't know what yardstick we can use just to measure or determine good behavior, but of course there is a minimum point from where all of us can now exist. And for example, the parents can be able to teach their kids from as early as their child, before the child becomes of age, goes on to speak, the good and the bad thing. It's a question of just limiting or maybe confining their rights, not really the rights, confining their freedoms, telling them, you cannot do this at this particular point, you cannot do this at this point. Then growing the ripple effect will be just,
Have you ever been in a such situation, or do you know anyone who has been in a such situation, and elaborate more?
I don't think so, but I've seen people being such of it, and it becomes very quite difficult for people to just make peace with it. For example, there was this case about silhouettes and cartoons of maybe the president, which was there was a point they were trying to push back. The way they communicated was a little bit difficult for. Before the president is a father, is a brother, is a sister, somebody, and maybe there was better ways to try and make things happen. So rather than create this silhouettes, portray people in a conflict, service online, I think we can do better as the economy.
Thank you so much for having you, Kazim. Have a lovely day. Is the Generation Z giving a new shape to democracy? We will find out about this in a special report by Isaac Maina right after the commercial break.
We don't train them for the job market. We train them to create the job market. This is infused in our training ethos. While you think about that, let's face it, what really defines a great university? Its students, quality faculty, commitment to research and advancement in academia. This is Daystar University. Excellence, transformation and servant leadership.
Welcome back, and thank you for tuning in once again. Remember, we value your feedback, so chat with us on all our social media pages at Brenda Nyakio using the hashtag FutureFocus. Moving on to our next story, where we explore on how Generation Z in Kenya have shown patriotism by fighting for their own country and demanding their voices being heard by the government of Kenya. Social media has been the main tool to air what
Well, thank you, Brenda. The Kenyan Gen Z took to the streets for their voices to be heard and make the government accountable, but still, down the line, linear adjustments have to be considered.
To be right now to be fighting for democracy, to be fighting for human rights, because social media has amplified that. So it's really
Many political leaders have termed Gen Z as the future of Kenyan politics and encouraged them to push their true agenda.
High taxes for no reason in the name of considering them mwananchi, but life becomes unbearable to many. Back in the studio to you, Brenda.
I am here with Alan Musyoka, an advocate of the High Court who has specialized on matters of democracy. How do you see the role of youth in shaping the future of democracy, particularly in the light of recent political movements led by the younger generations?
The only way that youths can influence is them being at the decision-making table. And this is
In what ways can young people influence policy decisions or government reforms, and what challenges do they face?
That is driving increased political engagement. Majorly is now, we have to appreciate that the Kenyan youth are very learned at the moment as compared to the last decade. And technology has really played a key role in that now their voices can easily be heard, and their voices can easily reach our wider base without spending much time and with very limited resources. Influence the policies. On that, the only challenge that is there at the moment, I think, is electoral fraud. This has been a challenge mainly in Africa, where one can exercise the democratic.
Thank you so much, Mr. Alan, and thank you for your insights. Have a lovely day. On our final developing story of the day, the issue of human rights being on the spotlight from the previous story, we'd love to know what you think. So join us in the conversation through our social media handles at Brenda Nyakeo using the hashtag #TheFutureFocus. A UN report highlights the growing dangers by older persons, especially in countries where there is Cold War. UN states that older persons are not ready and willing to leave their land and property or flee to safer grounds. Family members may be unable to support older persons with disabilities to flee with them during hostilities. In Gaza, between October 7th, 2023 and March 22nd, 2025, 5,411 people aged 55 and over were killed during the Israel military operations, according to data from the Gaza Ministry of Health. Our correspondent Fain Bonyo with more.
And Human Rights Council resolution marks a historic moment, but much work lies ahead. The next stage involves determining how the Intergovernmental Working Group will function and ensuring meaningful participation from older persons in the perspective organizations. Governments and civil society must work together to ensure transparency and inclusivity throughout the drafting process.
Studio, I am with Advocate of the High Court, Michael Mulandi. Karibu sana. What are the main challenges and limitations that UN face in investigating human rights violations?
I'll begin with, first of all, is funding. There's a problem with funding because many agencies, NGOs, civil societies, they are limited in terms of funds. And as such, they are unable to reach maybe, let's say, refugees or even affected people in the society who are facing human rights violations. But agencies like the Red Cross and other NGOs, they are trying to navigate through these challenges, maybe through things like digital currencies and through mobilization of funds by cooperating with regional players such as EAC and ECOWAS.
What is the relationship between UN and non-governmental organizations in investigating human rights violations?
There's a very big relationship between UN and NGOs. First of all, NGOs form part of reporting mechanism of the UN. It is NGOs who investigate, they collect information and submit reports to the UN. And by this, the UN as an organization is using this information that is collected by the NGOs, they can make recommendation to states or nations that are affected by human rights violations.
What is the role of the International Criminal Court in investigating and prosecuting human rights violations?
The ICC plays a very major role in investigating and prosecuting crimes. First of all, the ICC, as you know, deals with only 4 major crimes in the world. That is genocide, war against humanity, crimes of aggression, and war crimes. Once a report is made or there's a complaint made to the ICC, first of all, the ICC conducts an investigation. As you saw in Kenya in post-election violence, Ocampo came personally, they did investigations. And then after that, if they prefer charges against the person, warrants of arrest are issued. However, the ACC lacks enforcement mechanism. So such warrants, they're not enforceable as against the people who the warrants are issued against. And then finally, the ICC prosecutes the perpetrators. And once you are prosecuted, you can be imprisoned.
How does UN adapt to changing social and technological circumstances in its human rights investigations?
The United Nations can adapt by, first of all, expanding the scope of emerging trends in human rights, such as things to do with protection of LGBTQ rights and digital rights. Secondly, the UN has incorporated, in terms of technology, has incorporated things like satellite, image and reports, such that they are able to detect mass casualties through satellite. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much, Michael Mulandi, for your insights, and have a lovely day.
Tunza ngozi yako kwa njia inayofaa kwa kutumia the best of a jelly and the best of a cream.
In resolve to make our world a better place with peace and harmony by respecting people in their denominations, their culture, passions, and also their beliefs. This will enable better relations with everyone. Thank you for having us till the end of the show. See you next time, same place, same time. I have been your host, Brenda Nyekeo. Have a fruitful time.